Today's video, I'm going to be trying to do a seam embellishment like this. This is the exterior of a fashion corset. I've never made a corset before, so I'm just kind of going with what techniques and methods I've used in the past for projects. I could look up how to do a corset, but this is going to be a fashion corset where you're just going to wear it like a corset vest instead of a corset underneath everything for body shaping. What I have is some petite fabric here. This is 100% cotton. I got 100% cotton accent for the seam embellishment. And I cut this on the bias so it's got a little bit of stretch in it. And the technique I'm going to be using is similar to making a welt seam or a flat piping. And what this is, how I got the measurement for this is 5/8 for the seam allowance. Then I want the band to be about 1 inch wide. So it has to be 1 inch wide, folded over ½ inch, ½ inch. So that's 2 inches plus 2 5/8 seam allowances. Should be 1.25 inches, so it should be 3 inches and 1/4. So I made this 3 inches and 1/4. I'll have to figure out what I'm going to be using for what's called the boning of this. I'm not going to use metal because it's not going to be body shaping. So it's going to be plastic, nylon, or polyester. I have no idea what sizes are available for that yet. So what you do is, this is the right side together, just like you do in piping. Put in your welts or your piping material or your accent. Then again, have your right sides together. And I'm going to do a standard 5/8 inch seam on this. I'm not backtracking or backlocking because I'm just making a practice garment. Now, since this is going to be a seam embellishment, we're going to have to make it look nice. So first we're going to press open the seam allowances on the back here. And I'm using a tailor's ham arm because when I press this, I don't want to press the edge of this fabric into the garment fabric. And using a tailor's ham, you can just basically just be pressing the seam here. Then go to the front of your garment. And for this, I'm going to press it one way this way and then one way the other way. Just so I can get maximum flatness. Sorry about that steam. Now, since I pre-pressed this with a centerline crease, I'm going to try and line it up with the centerline crease with the sewing seam I did for the construction. That way, when I press it down, it'll be equal distance on each side. This technique I developed when I made some cargo shorts. I didn't like the traditional flat felds because it left one edge that had the fabric, a folded over edge, and a top stitch, in just the line of stitching here. What I wanted was fabric, a fold, fabric, a fold, and fabric, so it looks equal on both sides. That's where I developed this technique. I lined that up the best I could on that. I'm giving this a good press, lots of steam, because I want it to be crisp and flat. Now, this center crease here is also going to be my stitch line for the center. Let's go ahead and sew that center line. And now I'm going to edge stitch down these edges. And I need to switch over to an edge stitch foot. It's got a blade to help line up the edge of the fabric. This is one of many different types of edge stitching foots you can get. Then I'm going to, there's no opening this, so you have to do a stitch, then pull your thread under. Now I'm going to be using stitch number 2, which lines up the needle in the center position. But that's going to be right on the edge here, and I don't want it to be right on the edge. So I'm going to go 3 bumps that way, which would be 1.5 millimeters over. So it'll give me slightly over a 16th. And the thread I'm using for the top stitching here, and I did it for the construction, is a polyester embroidery thread. It's got a little sheen to it, which is nice for top stitching, versus if I was just using the 100% poly. That's one edge of it done. I would say this actually came out to be less than a 1/16 of an inch edge stitch here, which is fine. It's a test garment. Now I don't have any boning, and I don't know the exact measurements I'm going to be using for this, but what I'm going to do to give the look like I've got boning in here, I've got some cording that I took the center cord out to make this a little flatter. Just thread this in through here. This is where I guess you'd be inserting boning when you're making a corset. Like I said, I've never made one, so I don't even know when you put the boning in. but I would say it would be kind of after. Or I don't even know if it's sewn in. There we go. That's kind of how I envision the seams to look on the exterior side of the fashion corset. Of course, this will be a little flatter with the boning versus the cording I'm using. So I'm just kind of using this as an example, a test garment. It's kind of how it look on a person.